Hi guys, welcome back to another video. And today we got a different project in the shop. As you can see, we have a turbo in the picture, but I pan back and then you see the project I'm working on. So it's a Ford Focus ST turbo. So today we're going to be doing a turbo upgrade to this Focus. So let's get into it. Alright, I guess the first thing is to check the turbo out and see where it's at. On these model, the turbo is in the back section of the engine, so most of the stuff's going to be done underneath, and then I think some of the stuff has to be done up top. So really what you got to do is take this this cowl off, and then wipers, all this, so you can access it. Probably this upper intake has to come off. And then probably come off right here, and then we'll take a look underneath and see what we gotta do. Alright, got it up in the air, and I'll shine my light up here. You can see where the turbo sits. So it's tucked up in there, so pretty much whatever it's connected to has to come off. So right now, if you look, here's the lower charge pipe that comes out of the turbo. So most likely this connection here, this coupler here, has to come off. This turbo is oil and coolant cooled, so that has to come off. Let's see if I get my light up there so you can see it better. There's the oil drain. There's the side coolant feed. So I'm guessing I have to drain the coolant because it's tapped in the side of the block. I don't know if you can see it, it's hard to see, but it's tapped in the side of the block for coolant also. So if I unplug that right now, it would just all drain out of the block anyway. So the drain for the radiator is right here. I think you can stick a hose on that and then bring it out to the bottom and just turn that knob, and then it'll come out. So let me get the coolant drain, and then I'll start undoing some of these turbo parts, and then I'll let you guys see what that looks like. Alright guys, I'm gonna start at the top here, and then take this panel out and the wipers. So what I usually like to do is mark which wipers is on which side, top and bottom, especially these style where they come in the middle and they meet. So make sure you get it right. And then I also put a piece of tape to line where the wiper sits, so when you put it back on, you don't get them out of alignment, and then and you won't have an alignment issue when you might put it back on and it's not right, and then it's hitting up top when it's coming down or coming up. So yeah, what I like to do is just mark it, so that give yourself a reference to put it back together. So really, what I see is it's probably this nut here, one over there. It has some Torx nuts, so I'm probably guessing there's one up in here somewhere. So usually you gotta pull the trim, the insulation piece here, and then it usually hides, like you can see here, some clipping. So let me get that pulled apart, and then actually, I'll show you even a trick with these wipers. So let me loosen this one up, and then I'll show you a quick little trick. Alright guys, I got this loose. It's a 15 millimeter. And then a lot of times these arms are really tight to get off, and you don't want to bend them or break them. So what I do is I take my hand and push it here. And then the force will wiggle the wiper arm off. So you just got to wiggle a couple times like that, like you're giving it CPR, and it'll come loose. So that's a trick for you guys. But yeah, they come off just like that. Put them on the side and then do the other one. Alright guys, I got the wipers off, the cowl off. The cowl is pretty simple, just two torque bolts on each side, and then 4 push clip in the center. And then they had a metal brace underneath here that held on by a 10 millimeter, one on each end. So that's all it took to come off. And then it has a part of the intake going into it. There's a tube, but it just comes right off of the center. Here's the piece. It just push in there. So pull that off when you guys have that off. And then next thing will be this charge pipe. I guess the intake pipe, they would call it. So there's a sensor back here. I unplugged it. And then there's a like quick connect push clip style. So pretty much what you do, you squeeze this, it opens up and you slide it out. Clamp here. And if you look down below, there's a clamp. I already loosened it. There's a clamp there. So let me get that apart, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, I got this pipe almost out. So one of the things that holds this thing is it's one I think 8mm bolt here, and it has this plastic bolt that holds it on this side. So it's a 12mm end. So make sure you get like a box end wrench like this, 12mm, so it catches all sides, because these plastic bolts strip out real easy because they're just composite, you know, plastic. But that holds it on this side. So once you got that off, and then this hose off of here, you know, you just wiggle it, pull it out this way, and then undo it down there, and then pull it out, and that whole tube comes out. So that'll be the intake tube. So let me see what else I gotta do in here, and then I'll show you guys what needs to be done next. All right, guys, I pull that intake tube off, and then you can access the turbo. So what we have back here is a shield that covers the, I guess, the 4 bolts that takes the turbo off the head itself, because there's really no manifold, you know, on these Focus. So the head is built into the turbo. So basically the head comes out, and then the flange, and then the turbo goes straight to the head. So there's really no exhaust manifold per se on these turbo cars. Pretty much the same as like newer Hondas and a lot of newer stuff, because they're trying to make it more efficient, and then just more emission friendly, really. But other than that, I stuck a rag inside here so nothing will fall into the compressor housing. So try to keep that clean, because this turbo is good. The customer just upgraded to a bigger turbo, a bigger Garrett turbo. But as you can see down here, here's one of the oil line, coolant line, which I have pinched off. So I have a little plier, plastic plier that's made for pinching, you know, hoses so it doesn't leak. So when I pull out the coolant, it doesn't run everywhere. So the lower coolant hose is a metal line, so it's gonna run everywhere anyway. So I gotta drain the coolant, but from up top, you know, it saves you a little trouble when you pinch that line off. And then I gotta see where that line goes. I pull that off, and then there's look like a factory boost solenoid, boost controller probably right there. So just take it in consideration where those vacuum line goes before you take it off, or mark it if you're not comfortable. What I like to do is usually I take a picture of it. So before I take it off, I'll have a picture of it, and then you know, for reference, when you go back together, you know where it goes, because this turbo is going to be an internal gated turbo, so he's not going to go to an external gate. So you know, there's a vacuum line that controls it, and it goes to the solenoid down here. But yeah, good idea to take a picture, label it, and whatever you're not sure of, because there's a clip down there, oil line, coolant line, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on here. But yeah, so just save yourself the headache, and then do it right, and then put it back together right. Once you label it, you won't, you know, second guess yourself. But what I gotta do is, I think the shield has to come off here. It has 2 Torx. I don't know why Ford used Torx, but they like using torque bolts. But yeah, so I'm hoping this comes off. This car doesn't have that many miles, but a lot of people have a problem with this, so they just pry the shield apart to get to the turbo bolts. But I'm gonna try to save it, because you know, without trying to damage anything. And then I don't know if I can reuse that. I don't know if that's part of the upgraded turbo. Once I pull it apart, I can see what I really gotta do. So let me get that shield off and then all these lines out, and then I'll show you guys what all that looks like before I pull the turbo. Alright guys, I got that shield out. 2 torque bolts. Torx bolt actually came off really easy. I was surprised, but there you can see the manifold bolts, the turbo bolts really. 4-bolt flange, 13mm. Right there, and then over there and underneath. So they don't look real rusty, so that really promising. And then this coolant line has a bolt that holds it down here. It's a Torx bolt. It's a T27. So you guys can undo that before you do the turbo. But other than that, the coolant line and oil lines are ready to be taken off now. So let me get those off, and then I'll get this turbo out. Alright guys, I'm back down at the bottom here, and started to drain the coolant. So on these, the drain spins out. It has 2 positions, so once you spin it out till it stops, you have to spin it again. Then it opens up. What I did was stuck just a rubber hose on the drain so it drains out, and then I have a pan to catch it. So if you plan to reuse your coolant, then make sure you have a clean pan. Other than that it's all drained out now. It's just starting to drip a little bit, so it's pretty much drained. Turbo wise, I took the oil drain off the turbo. You can see there, kind of see there it is, and then it goes into the block right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's hard to see, but it's right there. So I got that off, and then I come across this side. I'll show you through here. Let me get the light positioned better. There it is. You can see. Actually, you can see someone already plugged this one. It's probably for the whatever they did before. So that vacuum line is plugged, but you can see there's another vacuum line here. I don't know if you can see it where my finger is. Kind of hard to film, but try to show it to you guys. Right here. So there's a vacuum line there. It's a plastic line that goes down from the top. So that one has to become unplugged, and then also this is where your oil feed comes out of, right here. So with the new bigger turbo, it comes with a new oil line. So I'm pretty sure this has to come off. So let me get these line apart, the coolant line off. I think the solenoid in there can stay on the turbo, and then we'll get that turbo out. But I think that's all you really have to do, turbo wise. So, but let me get that out, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, I got the turbo out, and there it is. So what I had to do is take this lower mount loose, bolt here, the engine will pivot, and then you can draw it down through here. I guess the other thing was when you guys pull these apart, when you take the coolant feed off, all the coolant from the block is going to drain out. So make sure you have a good catch pan to catch all that coolant. It makes a mess. And then I also dropped this lower charge pipe to give me a little more room to get it out. But other than that, I'll show you guys a new turbo. I have it sitting on here. I'm just prepping it out. But new Garrett turbo. Just putting some of the fittings on. The feed's already on. This is a coolant fit. I think that's a feed side, and then the back side is a drain. So there's not much instructions on on these, but there's a good video on CJ Pony's website when they give pretty good description of what all you have to do to get these turbo prepped. So I'm gonna finish prepping this turbo, and then get it ready to go back into the car. So I'll get it prepped and I'll bolt it back up and I'll show you guys what that looks like. Alright guys, I got the new turbo halfway installed. You can see it actually has a provision for an external gate, but this one's internal. Oil line, as you can see, is ran. I gotta tighten it yet, but the feed coolant, which is this lower line, is done, but the drain is over here. I have to run it above the trans, so I gotta take this metal line out right here, focus, and then switch it over to that line that came with it. But other than that, it's coming along. Then I gotta figure out the lower section, which is the intake, and then the charge pipe, and then put it all back together. So let me get that together, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Alright guys, I got this turbo back on, but ran into an issue. This turbo upgrade doesn't work with a factory intake. What happens is this end here is too small, and then this is like 2.5, and then the turbo side on this is 3-inch. So I can show you here, it's really loose, and then these things have a cut in them that goes the whole way to the top. So even if you try to clamp it, it's gonna leak. And then this being a mass airflow car, mass airflow right there, it's gonna have false readings. So I talked to the customer about it, and I guess since it's here, I'm gonna make him a custom intake to make it work, instead of trying to rig this thing up to make it work with it. We spent a lot of money on the turbo, so might as well get it right. So in a couple minutes here, I'll put a little charge pipe, well, a little intake together for him, and then we can get on with this project. Alright, when I said quick, I mean quick. Put that together for it. Pretty much 3-inch up to the factory coupler here. This is the intake side, so there's really no boost pressure, so it's not critical that it has to have, you know, super tight connection, but it is critical to have a good connection because of the mass air meter. But there it is, just an aluminum 3-inch. It goes down, but you can't see right there. But other than that, that should be finished. So I got wire up the factory boost controller, and then once that's done, can load the tune on it. It has a Cobb access port, so he has a tune for it. So I'm gonna load that, and then we're gonna do the first startup and see what it sounds like, if we have any leaks or any issues. All right, guys, I got this job pretty much wrapped up, so I'm gonna fire it up and see how it sounds. There it is. It's running pretty good. Doesn't sound like it has any exhaust leak or anything. But here it is, everything back together. Intake that I made, covers back on. Got to top up some coolant, but I'm gonna let it run for a little bit, make sure we don't have any leaks. But other than that, this job is pretty much finished. So if you guys like what you see here and you'd like to see more, feel free to comment and like, share, and subscribe, and then I'll try to give you guys more content. Have a good one.